So my friend Nick Wright, in the summer, I just sit and grind out these shows. Nick Wright does not. He's a global traveler. He was in Barcelona, Zurich, Austria. For all I know, he was at the Arctic. The well-traveled, well-coiffed Nick Wright via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. Well, you look great. Barcelona, great food. I listened to you on radio yesterday, and I'm so happy that you had a great time with your fam. So I may be crazy on this, but it is weird about running backs in the NFL, Nick. They come undrafted. They come from directional schools. Everybody in Dallas is better around the running back this year. Tony Pollard, could I make an argument? I could play him. I could make Zeke sweat it out a few weeks.
All right, so here's the argument against it, because I think that everyone acknowledges that running back's a fungible position, that for the vast majority of running backs, you can get 80% of the production for 10% of the money, so why spend the money? The question that I think people are swaying away from the correct answer to, how valuable is the spread? How valuable is that extra 20% that you can get with a truly great running back? Because while I think you shouldn't pay Melvin Gordon, and I think even a LaShawn McCoy maybe is replaceable, the great ones, and there's only a couple right now. Todd Gurley has been, and we saw what happened to the Rams once he stopped being great. Zeke's the most important player on the Cowboys because their quarterback's so limited, because they've invested in the offensive line. So I understand the analytics. It's a throwing game, and you can find NFL-level running backs. But great running backs, I think, are still valuable. Zeke's one of the great running backs, and we've talked about this before. There's two ways to look at the beginning of Dallas' schedule. One way is Giants, Washington, Dolphins. Man, we could win those games without Zeke and really make him sweat it out, to your point. The other way to look at it is if you go 1-2 in those first three games, your season is finished before we hit October 1st. That's Zeke's portion of the leverage. It looks like they're going to play week one without him. I think the Giants could beat them if Zeke's not out there. I'm not as high on Tony Pollard as some seem to be.
Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur. I did this morning what I believe the lexicon for it among the kids now is hot take. I think his relationship, Aaron and Matt, is the best in that division because I think Matt's going to appreciate him coming from Marcus Mariota, and I think Zimmer's going to get frustrated with Cousins. I think Nagy's going to get frustrated with the limitations of Trubisky, and Matt Patricia, this is his first and last head coaching job. He's going to be very impatient with Stafford. I think Rodgers and LaFleur are going to get along great. What say you?
I don't think that we should, just because Aaron Rodgers seems to have a poor relationship with some members of his family, and just because our friend Greg Jennings and Aaron don't have the greatest relationship, I don't think we should act as if Aaron Rodgers has a long history of criticizing or crushing coaches. He's not your beloved Big Ben who does. He has a history with Mike McCarthy where for the first 9 years, it went really well, and then it got stale while Mike McCarthy's schemes got stale, and it seemed to really go sour, starting with that devastating loss in the NFC Championship game to Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. Both relationships work the best when both parties' incentives are aligned. Rodgers and LaFleur's incentives are perfectly aligned. This could be Matt LaFleur's one and only coaching job if it goes poorly. Rodgers knows for his sake it is the best case scenario that he never has another head coach, that this is his last head coach. And Rodgers, I believe he's the most talented quarterback we've ever seen in this league. He can't go 3 straight years not winning his own division, much less not making a Super Bowl. So I agree with you, Colin. I think both guys, especially early, are going to be on the same page. I think LaFleur will appreciate he has a quarterback who can actually throw as opposed to what he had in Tennessee. And Rodgers will appreciate he has a coach and schematic guy who is going to get some guys open before the ball is even snapped as opposed to what he was dealing with Mike McCarthy. So I agree with you. At least over the next 12 to 36 months, I think this relationship will be great.
Is it possible, shifting to Andrew Luck, that some of the booing was about the situation and not just about Andrew Luck, and that the media's overwhelming take that people in Indianapolis are heartless, cold, and horrible people is overstated?
Of course, that's correct, and I hate agreeing with you on everything, but this is spot on. I'm going to pull back the curtain a bit to the viewers. One of us in the media, in general, our favorite things is to wag our fingers at you, the naughty fans, because it is the ultimate Captain Easy stance take. I mean, it's just, look at how dignified I am. I would never boo the athlete. Okay, listen. Those folks in Indy, I do not think would have booed his press conference. But and people came out and said, those aren't real fans. BS. Those are the realest fans. You know how I know it? Not only were they at a preseason game, they were there at the very end. Those are your diehards. And your diehards are invested. We ask people to be deeply financially and emotionally invested in sports. It's why there's 24-hour shows and networks like this, but you're not going to have a 3-hour talk show about Once Upon a Time in America, even though people love going to the movies. Sports are different, and those fans there felt betrayed, even if that's unfair and irrational. Even if Andrew Luck was doing the right thing for himself, and with 24 or 48 or 72 hours perspective, people saw it, in real time, they're thinking, wait, what? For the second time in 3 years, I paid for season tickets, and he's not going to play? I get the booing, just like I understood in the moment Raptors fans cheering that they saw KD went down. I don't think they were happy once they knew he blew his Achilles. I think in the moment they're like, man, this dude is giving us buckets, it's killing us, and now he's off the floor. It's an emotional, momentary reaction, and I don't think they should be, the city of Indianapolis should be judged for it.
Finally, I want to hear Kobe Shaq. I'm a Kobe guy. You're not a huge Kobe guy. Kobe says, I got 12 more rings if Shaq wasn't so lazy. And Shaq says, I'd have more rings if you pass. What's your take on that?
Okay, so I think the Shaq work ethic stuff is a little unfair. People forget what a monster he was in Orlando before he even got to L.A. His weight truly ballooned after he played through an injury in the 2002 NBA playoffs and into the 2002 NBA Finals, where they did, in fact, win a championship. But also, big guys are never going to be able to work out the way small guys are. With that said, Shaq probably could have been a slightly better practice player, slightly better workout guy. Kobe also could have been a slightly better teammate. Like, did the relationship go sour when Shaq didn't practice, or did the relationship go sour when Kobe tried to throw Shaq under the bus to the police in Colorado? Probably a little bit of both. Kobe has a very good job at some revisionist history, and Shaq's right about that Detroit Pistons NBA Finals series, where Kobe was awful except for Game 2. He had a 4 of 13 in there, a 7 of 25. But your point that dynasties don't last as long as we think they will or think they should is absolutely correct. Yes, in a vacuum, Kobe and Shaq should have won 5 or 6 rings together, but there's egos, there's different age profiles. And by the way, for Kobe, he wouldn't tell you this, getting 2 rings without Shaq was more important and more validating for him than if he would have gotten 4 more with Shaq and 0 without him. Both guys got what they needed out of the relationship.
Nick, Wright, of course, first things first, my favorite moment of our network, our young network, came this morning when not only I, but Enos Cantor was showing great affection to Nick Wright's hair. Folks, our network now is dependent solely on how Nick combs his hair. This is a beautiful television moment in America. Look at that. He appreciates.
Well,
look at that.
I appreciate that, Colin. Enos had gone on Twitter when I said that the Celtics plan going from Horford, Kyrie, Anthony Davis to Kimba, Jason Tatum, Enos Cantor was a disaster. He said the only disaster is my hairpiece, so I had to bring him on the show. So he knew that these glorious locks, they're totally real. I don't know where they came from, but they're totally real. And just before I go real quick, you mentioned at the top that you don't travel. If you don't travel, it would probably make sense for you to sell one of your 7 homes not in Los Angeles. I'm just saying. Seems to be a waste of resources, my friend.
Get out of here. Nick Wright, good talking to you, buddy.
I'll talk to you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show.
Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.